Oh, I love that you're great at this. The mistake that I made, and I want anybody, like I'll be 46 in May. This is good earned wisdom, people. Listen to this. This is not Adam's understanding. This is God. If you have to leave an environment, a spiritual environment where that once was safe and it's shattered, if there's a situation where you really believe you need to leave for whatever reason, just don't go into the wilderness on your own. Call a brother, call a sister, talk to somebody at least once a week to fellowship with someone, do that, or find another group of safety. What would have happened for me that would have been better would have been to plug right back into the dude who planted a church off of that one who we already knew about. Just to go there and not. A lot of people, what happens, I've noticed this, and this is my personal experience. I see when these things happen, people shake their fist at God or they point the guns on him. In this scenario, in that case, and for whatever God's grace, I've never pointed my guns at God, so to speak. I've never actually shook my fist at him based on what man was doing. I did have the protection of the grace, or at least the common sense, to know that what people did was people stuff. It wasn't God stuff. And that never has ever made sense to me, why people go at God based on somebody who acts like a fool, which, like you said earlier, we all have our times, but some people are fools, but they're not God either. So anyway, want to get that off my chest. I'm really tired of the Spirit and the Lord and the Father taking a rap for that stuff because it's people, it's us. And you're about to see how right now. Not plugging in, I was still doing my devotionals. I was still doing Bible study, creating Bible studies for an Experiencing God Bible study that we had back in the day, a monumental study for us that we went through that helped us grow. But the ember wasn't around the campfire anymore, so to speak. So we weren't attending or being around. Let me just put it the way the scripture says it. We were not gathering with other believers on a regular basis. We were forsaking gathering with other believers. That's the scripture about your holy attendance, people. Don't forsake gathering with believers. We're here together right now, aren't we? Having a little bit of church today. So in all seriousness, I believe that. So, but what we didn't do, and Nikki following my lead, was not that. So after a little while, I could do my study, this, that, and the other, but also, like you poignantly said, the enemy had slithered his way back in. He found a chip to bargain with. And I'm just a moron. I don't know any of this stuff is going on right now. I'm not a moron, but I'm dull to these things. I don't have this spiritual revelation. I don't have that vision yet. I can't see. I hadn't had my constant use, so I couldn't tell always right from wrong. And so now we're hitting this point of a year. Nikki and I go on a beautiful 1-year anniversary to Chicago. We conceive our first. We find out in March that we're going to have a baby. In the same month, I started chasing nurses again. Well, not that I ever chased nurses. I started chasing women again. The month we found out we were having our first. That began a period of 4 years where my spirituality, my love for God, I would have told you didn't change. Through all of it, even up to the near-death experience, the near-death moment. I shouldn't say experience. That makes it sound like my heart stopped beating. I don't mean that. I had a near-death overdose later. But with that, in that time period, I believed I was stuck. So we'll just do a couple quick bullets. I was unhappy in the lifestyle of being a nurse. I did not like how they owned my life. And when I say owned my life, dude, when you got to put some 50 hours somewhere plus drive time, and you're 20, that's your whole life. I think for adults, that's your life too. But I don't want to pick on having jobs because a lot of us are in spots and some of us are not wanting to be there and some of us love where we're at. This is not a job talk. But for me, it was crushing to me. And I didn't know how to handle it. That was number one. My parents and people around me. So I got my LPN license in the Army. Licensed practical or licensed vocational, depending on where you are in the country. They're like, go back, get your RN, go do that. You'll get more money and you'll be able to do more things. So I go do that and I become a level 1 trauma nurse. I'm making 50 bucks, 45, $50 an hour. And that's on straight time and doing contract work. And I'm going to places. But before all that happened, I'm going back to school to get that degree, right? So now I'm away from any other believers. The band is not happening anymore. I'm not leading Bible studies anymore. We're not going downtown Detroit and ministering to the homeless. My wife and I don't even pray together. My Bible study, all that stuff's got real weak and devotional falls off. And I realize that I'm going back to get another degree on something I'm already unhappy with in terms of living my life. And I actually loved the work. I always loved the work. Nursing homes are tough, but I loved being a nurse. Every part about being at the bedside and serving people and eventually getting to find my gifting in trauma nursing and being able to stop the bleeding and stabilizing. I use the analogy all the time in my private coaching. We're going to stop the bleeding and we're going to stabilize. Don't worry about that right now. These next 90 days, we're going to get you shaped up. So I go and I do these things, and then I'm in this spot now, and this is 03. I'm 23 years old. We find out we're having our first kid. I feel completely stuck. I'm not living my life of faith. And the devil got in. I get distracted. All of a sudden, this young wife that I have at home isn't what I'm all happy about. And I work at that time in nursing, 6 to 8. We'll say 7, 8 plus out of 10 were women to men as licensed nurses. These days, like all those dudes, when I was quitting, they all went back from the factories and truck driving. They got nursing degrees. I feel for them, man. Wow. I can't even. So we'll stay on point. I went, and that's where I was, and plenty of opportunity and availability, and I had idle hands. What do we call that? What we've always heard that is idle hands, devil's playground, man. So I start running around on my wife, and that didn't take but a handful of months before I started working midnights, going to full time, 11 to 7:30 in the morning. Then when I got off there, 3-4 days a week, I had enough time to stop at Burger King, get filled up on some trash, and then go off to college to finish my degree. And after I was done with school, 11, 12, 1, I go back home, I go to sleep, and I go do it all over again. So now I'm doing different places, different women in different locations again, and back comes in the old conviction. And so this time, I didn't respond like I did when I was in the Army, or even with the fornication. That was when I ignored God's tappings. I didn't reject him. It was more, if there was any spiritual look to it, it was, he's doing this, son. And I'm like this. I know you're there, Lord. I know you're there, Lord. And I'm like, and I would look the other way. I'd act like a child who's trying not to hear their parent, who wants them to believe they're not, they can't hear them. And I carried that on for some time. And so to quiet those alarms, I started taking opiates from people who went to sleep in the nursing home. So if they went to sleep and they had a 10 o'clock dose, or 11 or 12, whatever the dose was for the evening that I'm working, if they were sleeping and it was a Tylenol 3 or a codeine or something, I took it. And that's Vicodin was my, that's where it really got started. And so I get into opiates, and that leads down the path where this is just getting worse. And this is carrying on for some years without any significant changing other than the decline. My wife is knowing what's going on. And I end up finishing my license, and I do the same thing as an RN. I'm chasing women. Only when I got into the RN, I got into the big leagues of pharmaceuticals. And I found out, and I experimented with, and then I immersed myself in shooting up morphine and Dilaudid and fentanyl and Valium even, which you're not even supposed to do it the way that I did it. It was dangerous. I'm mixing in a bunch of Benadryl with this stuff, and I'm taking, I got to the point where I was taking a lot. But again, it was probably 2.5 years, or no, yeah, 2.5 years pills and 1.5 years needles. And I stopped using pills after the needles started. And that was a 4-year period where through that, my wife and I separated. We ended up having another child. So we had 2, and I was everywhere but around. And things got really bad there, which eventually led to the entire breakage of our home.